You just tell me when.
You're ready.
All right, we're going to start with a roll call before I call the meeting to order. David Dunn.
Here.
Wallace Dunn.
Here.
Dr. Benton.
Here.
Dr. Davenport.
Here.
Mr. Tippin.
Here.
Mr. Ewing.
Here.
And I am here, obviously. So we're going to go ahead and call to order the Ector County Hospital District Board of Directors Finance Committee meeting July 7th at 5 p.m. First on the agenda is the review of minutes for June 1st, 2020 meeting. And I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion for approval. David.
Wallace Dunn will second.
I have a motion and a second, and go ahead and do a roll call vote with that. David Dunn.
Yes.
Wallace Dunn.
Aye.
Dr. Benton.
Aye.
Dr. Davenport.
You better get out.
Yeah. No, I can't unmute him.
Dr. Davenport, I didn't hear you.
We got you muted, Dr. Davenport.
You have to unmute yourself. There.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Mr. Tippin
Yes.
and Mr. Ewing.
Yes.
I'm here also.
Hi, Mary Lou.
Yeah, but
Hi,
you're
Brad.
not on the board, so you don't get roll call.
I will also, I'm voting aye on that. So with that, that motion carries. And at this time, we will go to the conflict of interest disclosure by any board member. If there's anybody at this time that has any conflict of interest related to the agenda items today that we're discussing, this is your time to disclose those. And also along with that, it's the time for public comments on any agenda items related. At this time, if you have anything that you would like to speak on, you'll need to state your name first and then speak on only the agenda item on this agenda specific tonight's agenda. Yeah. All right, hearing nobody, we're going to move on. So we're going to move to the financial report for month ended May 31st. Mr. Ewing.
Good afternoon. Do you mind handing me that pointer? And can you pull up the...
Yep.
Okay, let's see if this... There we go. It's clicking. All right, so admissions for the month of... wait a minute.
This is April.
This is April. We are, this should have the May report. One moment. We need to pull up the correct...
Un momento, por favor.
It says May 31st, but why isn't the...
Here it is.
F5. All right, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, here we go. That's a lot better. 945 admissions for the month of May. That's still roughly a 20% decrease from prior year at this time. I think you're going to see most months or most of the other top line stats following the same pattern, where we've got a downward decline through March. April is our low month in this 6-month cycle, and May has come back up. And when we see June next month, we'll see another increase comparable to where March was. So April on all of these volume type slides is going to be our low month. But if we just look here at admissions, we'll see that we're down 19% to prior year. Adjusted admissions, which factors in outpatient volumes, is down 21% compared to this same time last year. You can see the dip in April and then back up in May. We're still significantly below budgets and prior years. Average daily census is the same. I can tell you though that in the month of June, we were a lot busier than 133 ADC that we're showing here for May. Deliveries is the one slide that we have volume-wise that shows nice volume increases month over month. We're at 190. If you recall back in the September, October time period last year, we were in the 200 plus range. So we're getting close to that number again. On a year-to-date basis, we're 12.6% over the same time period last year. And on a rolling 12-month basis, we're 16.1% ahead of last year. So deliveries continues to not show the impact of the coronavirus on services being performed here at the hospital. Total surgical cases, notice that we're at 554 for the month. And look at the low we had in April, 240. This is by far one of the lower volume statistics. We're 35% off the same number last year. Preview for June, we'll be back close to the 800 mark. So we did see a nice comeback in surgical volumes, but May was when we had just started opening things back up surgical wise. ER visits continues to be off significantly. 2,700 visits per day. You just do the quick math on that. That's less than 100 visits per day. So we're still struggling to get above and stay above the 100 visits a day mark. This time last year, we were at 4434. We're 38% off of last year's numbers. Total outpatient visits, you can see we're 31% off of last year. But again, we have the bounce back up from April to the May numbers. Urgent care visits, this is the one that is still struggling at our JBS West University and 42nd Street, even though 42nd Street seems to be doing a lot of the testing. We're just not seeing the volume in our two others. June, again, though, we did have a bounce back. So we're past the low points on all of these major stats. Here's ProCare office visits. You can see April was the low mark at 6642. We came back in May at 7271. That's still 30% off of this same time period last year. But I believe in the month of June, we're back up closer to our budget number. So that'll be a nice recovery for our ProCare office visits. Staffing wise, you can see we're at 1,571 total FTEs between employed and contract labor. We still had a few contract labor in the month of May. We got rid of most in April. We had several long-term contracts that we felt advantageous to keep. You can see that overall we're running 20% off of the same number last year. This is where we've been the first two months after we did the flexing and the permanent furloughs. We've been able to maintain comparable numbers into the month of June. July, we're starting to see an uptick in our FTE simply because we do see some business coming back. But for the month of May, that we're looking at here, a nice management of FTEs to our volume decline. On a paid hours per adjusted patient day, you can see we're basically flat with, in fact, we're actually a little bit better than this time last year, which is good. On a year-to-date basis, we're not, but for the month, we are where we should be on paid hours per adjusted patient day. Accounts receivable, yeah, this is the blue line is current month collections or current year. May was going to be our low collection month, and that just follows with April being our low volume month. We do see higher collections in the month of June, more comparable to the month of April. But we're slowly coming back on that. I continue to work with RevWorks on improving certain processes. We are seeing slight improvements in that, but we're still not where we need to be. Total gross receivables are at 237 million. You can see the April number being the low. That mimics our volume numbers if you just sort of look at that. Revenue, we were at $88.2 million on total patient revenue. This is 23% off of last year. That's pretty good considering that in all but our admissions, we had higher declines than 23% in volumes. If you recall, surgery was off 39%, ER was off 39%, outpatient was off in the high 20%. So to be only 23% off of last year's number is good, just given where we are. Net patient revenues are off 22%, comparable to gross revenues. That's about a $5.1 million reduction to prior year. I just want you to remember that number when we go through some other numbers. So we're $5.1 million off of prior year. You can see it in the chart, the difference. But again, April was our low month. We're coming back in May. Other revenue, which includes tax receipts, in the month of May was 5.9. Just to recall, April was when we included the first of the grant money we received for the CARES Act, and we'll have another large line like that in the month of June. So if you look at where we are this month, 5.9 versus prior year of 7.1. So we're $1.2 million off of prior year. So really we're about $6.3 million in net revenues off from prior year. Now, when we look at our operating expenses, you can see we were able to manage our salary wages in line with our FTEs. We're 20.7% off of last year. That's a $3 million reduction in total labor cost to where we were. And that's a nice decrease. Our employee benefits were basically in line with what we expected. Our supply expense reflects our volume decreases. You can see we're 26% off of last year. Our purchase services shows a 16% decline. We're starting to see some of our efforts in working on purchase services. It's down to 3.8. We're just slightly ahead of last year at this time. We fully expect not to have the huge variance we had earlier in this year as we finish out the rest of this year in purchase services. Total operating expenses, 26 million versus prior year at 31.6. So we're $5.6 million off. So our revenue went down $6.3 million, and we were able to reduce our operating expenses by $5.6 million. And so that is a reflection of all of our exec team and directors working within their departments and trying to control our expenses during this pandemic. I think it's a very good job. Nobody likes to see the operating EBIDA loss that we have here on this slide, but to think that in the middle of all of this, our operating EBITA, our operating cash flow, was only a negative $1.6 million is encouraging. It's very encouraging to me. Year to date, we're still at $14.6 million negative loss. That's not a sustainable number long term. And on an annualized basis, you can see we're at 21.7. So we still have a lot of improvement to do, but I feel that we've made a good first step in trying to react proactively towards the pandemic that we're currently within. Now, our days cash on hand. This is one that I want to take a minute and just do a little explaining. You can see that it shows we're at 79.2 days, and we've actually increased since the pandemic started. I will tell you though, if you were to look in your board packet at the cash flow statement, you will see that our operating capital items, receivables, payables, accruals, sales tax or property tax receipts, all those things changes from the first of the year. There's $25 million worth of working capital that we've been able to manage to turn into cash. It's a short-lived. This isn't permanent. We will have to pay the bills that we've held. Receivables will come back. We'll have to build some receivables. So if you take 25 million out of this number, we're now down to 54 days worth of cash, which puts us back in the December-January time period, if you look at where we are on the charts there. So part of what we've done as a reaction to the pandemic has been to work our working capital items very diligently as a way of trying to ensure we have adequate cash in the upcoming months. And so this isn't something that I believe is a permanent number. It is one that we will burn through in the months of July, August, and September. We've been front loaded with a lot of our supplemental fundings in the months of May. We'll see another one in June, and we'll have another one in August. But these are things that the government has done as a means to help ensure that we have liquidity during this time period. So it is good to know that we have sufficient liquidity for the foreseeable future. And then when we look at our 13-month debt service ratio, we can see we're in negative numbers, a negative 61%. We will stay in the negative numbers and are below the 110% threshold as long as we're generating negative cash flow numbers. And we'll have to generate a couple of months of positive cash flow numbers before this ratio will come back into compliance. But again, we don't have to report this officially until the end of September with our year-end close. And that's only if we're still in the current revenue bonds that we'll talk a little bit later in the finance meeting. But that's the end of the finance report, if anybody should have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ewing. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Ewing? Okay. I'll entertain a motion of approval for the financial report.
It's David Dunn. I make a motion for approval.
Wallace Dunn will second.
I have a motion and a second. We're going to do a roll call vote. David Dunn,
Aye.
Wallace Dunn,
Aye.
Dr. Benton,
Aye.
Dr. Davenport,
Aye.
Mr. Tippett. Mr. Tippin?
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Ewing?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so the motion carries. I thought you'd fell asleep, Mr. Tippin.
Hmm.
I'm
Technical
just trying to
difficulties.
keep you awake over there, okay?
Almost.
Almost, okay. We're getting through it. All right, so we have the next on the agenda is the consent agenda. We've got 3 items on there, and I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion for approval. David?
Wallace Dunn will second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote for the consent agenda. David Dunn,
Aye.
Wallace Dunn,
Aye.
Dr. Benton, sorry.
Aye.
Dr. Davenport,
He's muted.
He's muted.
There you go.
Aye.
Mr. Tippin,
Aye.
and Mr. Ewing.
Aye.
So aye for myself, so the consent agenda passes. Dr. Benton, I downgraded you. Some days that might be a good thing depending on the stress that you're going through. So,
Hmm.
all right, so we're moving on to the capital expenditure request, and that will be Kristen Timmons.
I'm covering for Kristen today.
Oh, you look very different.
Yes, my hair is
Kristen,
different a
yeah.
little today, but
Cut your hair and colored it, and
she has this in here. It's gone through all the committees. This is a replacement of her current had a surgery table in the surgery department. She said we will keep the old one as a backup, but it's having a problem with the wheels and the stability. So we need to replace that. Everybody has scratched and sniffed it. It's good to go, and it's here for y'all's approval.
I make a motion for approval. David Dunn?
Wallace will second.
all right, I have a motion and a second for the capital expenditure. Let's go through the roll call vote. David Dunn,
Aye.
Wallace Dunn,
Aye.
Dr. Benton.
Bye-bye. Go celebrate.
I think I heard him say aye. Dr. Davenport,
Aye.
Mr. Tippin,
Aye.
and Mr. Ewing.
Aye.
Also an aye, so that motion carries. And then we're on the last item on our agenda is the bond refunding.
Okay, so there is no presentation at this point. We do have Doug Witt, our fiduciary administrator for this, online, and he'll be available also in the regular board meeting. What I do want to report is that we had our bond adjudication trial with the Attorney General last week. We were successful in that suit, which now allows us, after a 20-day appeal period, to move forward. Doug is working very diligently with our lawyers to get the refinancing documents all put together. And in the regular board meeting, we will have a report and a motion from him. But from the Finance Committee, I just want to report that we are on track to be able to refinance our existing revenue bonds and convert them into general obligation bonds. And we expect to go through the investor presentation sometime mid-July through mid-August, in which Doug will be helping us get these sold to various institutional investors. And the timeline for refinancing is tentatively set somewhere between September 1 and September 15th. So stay tuned when we have more updates, but right now we are on track with the original schedule that was presented to the board several months ago. Any questions? Okay, good. We will, as I said, Doug will speak a little bit more in the regular board meeting when we have all of the board members. But we are proceeding as desired. That's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ewing. I just want to give anybody else one more opportunity before we close out, that if you have any questions about any of the bond refunding. Okay. All right. Well, with that, we will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.
All right.